Hi you guys, so I want to talk to you about and teach you a little bit about a method of meditation that is one that when you become a meditator and then you one day turn around and look back and go, I don't know what happened, but I am more joyful, I am more happy, happiness independent of conditions. I'm not looking for happiness on the outside. It comes from the inside. I have access to it instantaneous anytime I want. And I'm more kind and patient and compassionate, and I just give more, and I'm more charitable, and I'm a better human being. Like, this is the birthplace. This method of meditation is the birthplace of all of that growth process. So a super cool place to play. It's the secret sauce that kind of holds everything together. Non-duality and emptiness, these two concepts have to have some form of bliss. Joy and bliss, to be able to really understand them, to really at an experiential level get them. And this is that secret sauce. So that sounds a little esoteric, but let me tell you on a simple basic level, this is the method of meditation that helps you see at a fundamental level, not a level of the mind, the intellect pontificating bullshit level, but at a fundamental level, experiential wisdom level, negativity bias, to be more intelligent about your emotions, emotional intelligence, and to have happiness independent of conditions. Like, super cool, right? If I told you there was one method of meditation that helped do all that, you'd be like, wow, that might be kind of cool. I might want to learn that. And how this method works is you evoke, or you strike the bell, or you create, or you connect to sensations of joy, happiness, feel good, loving kindness, compassion states in you, and then you feel what that feels like in your body. This is the sensory clarity bit of meditation. You feel what the flavor of joy and happiness and all of those feel like in your body, where they're at, where they move to. You get really fine-tuned in your sensory clarity as you start to ride that wave. And then it dissipates, and then you strike that bell again, or you evoke the emotion of joy or happiness or loving kindness or compassion again, and then you just write it out, you feel it. So eventually, you don't have to strike it, you don't have to create it, you're not evoking it. Eventually, you're a surfer. You've learned to surf that wave 1,000 times, so you just go right to the end point, the joy. You just go right to the joy. It's like you just open yourself up, and you're like, it's always there. It's always there, independent of conditions. At first, it may feel like a kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing, or for us, because we have such a deficit of joy and happiness, and we're always in negativity bias land, it can feel a little bit inauthentic at first, or like a little bit foreign to come into this place. And so just be patient with yourself. Remember, this is you're learning to be a surfer, and you don't become a good surfer by just going to the ocean with your board and sitting in there going, I wish I was a good surfer. No, you got to get your ass on the board, and every day you got to hit the waves, and every day you got to hit the waves, and every day you got to ride the waves, and every day you get a little bit better, and every day it gets a little easier. And so it is kind of a evoke it or strike it or create it till you make it. Create it until it's there, and then it's there. It's just this ever present in the background, running on autopilot thing that you have access to. And then the other thing that comes up is, of course, when we say positivity, or we're going to work in positivity land or joy, people experience that, it's so subtle, I don't feel it. I'm so disconnected from that and subtle is okay, and subtle is good, and subtle is progress. Again, we're learning to be a surfer. It's over and over, practice, practice, practice. This is a practice. And when we talk about evoking positivity and joy and bliss and all of that in our body, it also, the opposite happens. Like the elephant in the room pops up, the opposite pops up. It's like that little kid that's running around, and you're like, stop running around, and they're like, no, and they run around more. Or you tell them to be quiet, and then they just get louder and louder. And so you get to work with your equanimity in this practice a lot. You're working all of the skills here, really. You're learning to concentrate, just like every other meditative practice, to learn to concentrate on what do I deem important? Well, joy and happiness is pretty important to me, so I want to focus here. And you're learning to get clarity, sensory clarity. And this is how the emotional intelligence comes in, because we start with these, beautiful, joyful, blissful, grateful, gratitude, all the feel-good bits. And we learn to feel where those emotions are in our body and how they track and what they do. And then eventually, when an emotion of fear or emotion of shame or anger or hate or agitation comes up in our body, we're just like, oh, that's just an emotion. I know what to do there. I know how to work in that sensorial land of emotions to allow them to come up and come out. And then we sit in equanimity with it, because this method is steeped in all the traditions. The deeper ones and the more old school ones are Metta meditation or Tonglen, practices of loving kindness. But in those practices, you evoke loving kindness in yourself, and then you send it out to a loved one, and that's all good and great because you love them. But then you eventually send it out to your enemies. You send them some loving kindness and compassion. Boy, that's a test of equanimity right there. And so this is a legitimate practice in and of itself that strengthens and boosts and is a form in and of itself, and an independent form of meditative practice. And it should be a part of, supplemental piece of every meditator's toolbox. You should have this, because if we're getting to the depths of non-duality and emptiness, there's a bliss realm in there too that we need to connect to, or that's kind of the juicy glue of those. And this also helps with that, to facilitate that. It's like the cosmic bounce, the just joyful lightness of these practices. And traditionally, this practice was kind of limited to loving kindness and compassion, and then you strike it in you, and then you send it out. But I love, like Shinzen Young's unified mindfulness system, he does this with any feel good, and you can strike it with a thought, you can strike it with an emotion, a sensation of juiciness in your body, is anything that feels good. So he really broadens out the scope of this practice. And so we're going to play with kind of all of the traditional lenses of this and his lens of this, and just try all these different practices on in this next video. So when this video ends, another one will pop up and you can do this practice with me and try it out for yourself. It has been a juicy, extremely beneficial tool in my meditation toolbox. Happiness, independent of conditions. Not when I get that job, when I get that car, when I get to go on vacation, when that event occurs, when that person stops being an asshole, I'll be happy. We put so much of our weight on outside, our happiness, our joy on the outside. We know that's not where it is, right? It's in here. So let's find it. Let's play with it. Let's enjoy it. Have a great day, you guys.